Hello, viewers. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Musing, the podcast where we are pulling back the curtain on mental health this season. I am your host, Prachi Goyal Agarwal, and this is episode 3, Saving Lives in Silence. Today, I will be discussing topic that's often met with fear but demands our courage: suicide prevention. Behind every statistic is a person who felt invisible. But what if we could change that? Today I have privilege of having Miss Ujjwala Gupta as guest in Mindful Musing. Miss Ujjwala is a certified QPR trainer, hypnotherapist and founder of Pukar Foundation, a lifeline for those in despair. Welcome to the podcast, Miss Ujjwala.
Thank you, Prachi. It's a privilege to be here.
Miss Ujjwala, I would like to know about your journey, that how you have started and how you have thought about suicide prevention, because it's a very bold step where you started talking about this particular prevention. And along with that, I would also like to know how your journey took you to found Pukar Foundation.
Sure, Prachi. So, we started Pukar Foundation in 2023 with one very simple and powerful belief that no one should have to struggle alone. And Pukar is not only about suicide prevention, but also an emotional support helpline wherein people can, call us and share what they are going through. So the idea is that we would give emotional support to anyone going through a tough time. Anybody can call us, any student or any person going through financial crisis or any relationship issues, anybody can call us. And as responders who would be listeners who would be listening to them, we do not give advice or judgment, but we listen to them with understanding and empathy. So that was the idea behind starting Pukar. Yeah.
But Ms. Ujjwala, like, why a person will be reaching out to Pukar for getting the help?
So at Pukar, we hold very closely couple of things which would ensure that the caller, whoever is calling us, gets the support which they need. First of all, is that all the calls are completely confidential. We do not discuss any calls, anything which a caller has shared with us outside of Pukar. Secondly, the callers can call us anonymously. They don't have to share any personal details, where they're calling from, what is his name, or anything about them. And plus they can also, the support which they will get is non-judgmental. So many a times people find difficult to talk to those who are around them for the simple reason that they feel judged. They cannot share with friends, their colleagues, their family members. With family members, they might feel that they would be burdening them with their issues. With colleagues, they would always feel, at a workplace, how can I tell them that I'm going through some emotional stuff? Then there are very many factors at workplace in which which inhibit them from sharing their personal things with them. And with friends also, they might feel, what is my social standing? How would they judge me? Right? So all these factors make it very difficult for people to easily share with their circle around. So at Pukar, we provide that support which they would need, the safe space where they would not be judged for anything which they want to share. So that is what makes us stand out. And plus, we do not give advices. We don't give them suggestions. Mostly if you share anything with your friends or family, they would be quickly jumping into, let's fix this,
Yeah.
right? Let's just quickly find a solution to this. Are you do this, you do that, why don't you do this, right? So
Correct.
we don't tell people you should do this, you should do that. First, we give them the space to completely unburden themselves from whatever emotional turmoil they are going through. And then we gently check with them if they would want to discuss what they want to do. So the solution or whatever they want to do, it comes from them, not from us. So
So
that is what.
basically, you are giving a open space to the callers where they come and discuss, because they are not comfortable to discuss the same thing with the family and friends,
Correct.
right? So now, like, let's say a caller is giving a call to Pukar, and they are going to talk to the volunteer who can address their queries, right?
Yes.
Now, I am sure those volunteers are listening to them. However,
Hmm.
it is very difficult to address the suicidal mindset, right? Like when a person is thinking about this and just volunteer and telling, okay, this is my problem. We have to
Hmm.
actually train our volunteer a lot in such cases where they can address the things properly. So,
Correct.
how many volunteer you will be having in Pukar, and how exactly you are training them so that they can address the callers in a proper manner without giving a judgment to them?
Hmm.
Ultimately, because they
Correct. So, yeah, we have a team of 24 volunteers right now, and our helpline is operational from 10 o'clock to 2 p.m., 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. And so we give very rigorous training to all our volunteers, and especially around suicide, because everybody has inhibition even to say the word suicide.
right.
There are a lot of myths. Even the volunteers who come in for the training to desensitize them, even to say and ask the question, it's a task in itself. So we do a lot of role plays. We give them a lot of training so that they become comfortable in asking the question.
Okay. So, rigorous training is provided to volunteer because of which they are able to address it.
Yes.
Okay. So, in your introduction, I have mentioned that you are also a QPR trainer, right? I
Hmm.
got to know from you itself, but yeah, for my listeners, if you can tell us little bit more about QPR, what exactly it stands for, and how exactly it works in the real life.
Hmm. Yeah, so QPR is very simply put, it's the CPR for mental health,
Okay.
right? It's a very simple and very direct and life-changing approach, which definitely works. And if I elaborate on it, Q in QPR means question,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I say question, it means you go to the person if you're feeling somebody is in a state of distress or somebody is showing signs of anxiety, depression, hopelessness, or a radical change in behavior, then you go and ask that person gently if the person is having thoughts of suicide or the person is thinking of self-harm. So that is the question part of QPR. Then we come to persuade. And in persuade, we listen to the person with a lot of empathy and understanding, and we hold space for the person, and we reassure the person that he or she is not alone. And then we encourage, which comes to Q, P, and R, refer. Then we refer the person to take professional help, and it could be either we refer them to take professional help, or we even go with the person to take professional help, like go to a counselor or a psychiatrist or even a crisis helpline. It can be in support in any way. So that is QPR.
So as a QPR, you will be listening a person and then you will be referring the person to the right place so that they can
Correct.
get the solution to their queries, right?
Yes.
So
Not solution, I would say, but professional support for the state they are in.
okay, okay, understood.
Hmm.
So is there any scenario through which you can explain the same?
We can take example of a college student,
Oh.
right? So suppose hypothetically says there is a girl named Asha, and she has suddenly started skipping classes, and she is not eating properly. Her health is deteriorating, and she's not talking much to people. And there's a radical change in the way she has been behaving for past few days. And so her friend in her friends group, there can be one or two persons, but suppose let's say there's a friend called Pooja, and she goes and she asks Pooja, that is the question part, very gently, of course, that is she getting thoughts of suicide?
Mm-hmm.
So Asha, first of all, of course, when somebody asks such a question and there are thoughts of suicide in your mind, you open that line of communication with that person. You create that bridge with that person. So Asha says, yes, I am getting thoughts of self-harm and suicide. So Pooja listens to her, and she assures her that she is there with her, and she gently persuades her to seek help and go to the right people. That is the persuade part. She assures him that she is not alone. And the refer part would be that Pooja requests Asha to take help of the campus counselor. She takes her to the counselor, books an appointment with her, or she also gives her some online references of any helplines or any other counselors. And she also mentions that if Asha needs, then Pooja would also go along with her to the counselor. So
Hmm.
that is the refer part.
Okay.
This
Hmm.
entire scenario will cover how Pooja executed questioning, persuasion, and reference
Yeah,
for Asha.
understood. Understood.
And Asha would seek help, and of course, it would be a shift in her scenario and shift in her life because now she has got help. So she can deal with it more productively.
Now I believe QPR is more clear for me and maybe for listeners also, where they have understood with the scenario that exactly this is how what this is what QPR means. Perfect. Okay. So you were also mentioning this that people often fear of asking, right? Ki, are you thinking about suicide? And it is actually like there should be a courage of asking someone, are you thinking about suicide? Because if they are not even thinking, this can put the idea in someone's mind. Ki, okay, are you thinking about suicide, right? But
Hmm.
research shows the opposite is true. Why do you think this myth persists, and how can we unlearn it?
Hmm. Yeah. So see, the myth that you will plant an idea into somebody's mind, it arises from a lot of fear and misunderstanding. So it's very simple. Like I'm asking you right now, do you have a headache?
No,
Right? So did I plant an headache in your mind?
not really. Okay,
But if you already had an headache, right, then you would say, yeah, I was having an headache,
correct.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
as simple as that. You ask somebody, are you getting thoughts of suicide? If there is already a thought of suicide in that person's mind, then
Right.
they will automatically open up. They would feel safe to even talk about it. They would
Correct.
not be struggling with their thoughts and their clouded emotions on their own, right? So
Mm.
there is a lot of fear, first of all, because of misunderstanding, and people, I think they fear that what if the person says yes? What will I do then? Right? Because if somebody, you ask somebody, are you getting thoughts of suicide? And the person says yes. They're like, oh,
What next?
okay, I didn't expect that person would say yes, right? So they
Correct.
wouldn't know what to do next, right?
Mm.
So that is one of the reasons. Another reason is that there is a lot of taboo around discussing life and death in people in general.
Very
Don't want to talk about death. You
correct.
always want to talk about rosy things and everything which is bright and sunny and nice, right? So there's a lot of inhibition in people to generally discuss death or life in general. So that also inhibits asking the suicide question a lot of times. And yeah, so yeah, these are one of the reasons. And avoidance, of course, feels safer. That let us just avoid the whole thing. Let us just put everything under the blanket. Why talk about it, right? So it's safe thing, and you want to be in the safe space. Why do I need to deal with this, right? But yeah, so there's lot of lack in the way people have been educated around it. So that is why there's a lot of stigma around it. Now, coming to the point, how to raise awareness in people around this. So, it can be through education and awareness. Even in schools, people can, the teachers, the staff, they can be educated about the signs of people who are suicidal. They can be educated, even the students themselves, they can be
Okay, I
given.
was just about to say, why not we include this thing in the syllabus itself, where at least a part they can understand, ki, okay, this is why suicide is not fine. It's
Correct.
basically it's not taboo which you cannot talk to the student. At least student will be aware. Otherwise, we keep on hearing the cases where they have given the test, they have not
Mm.
they have not actually got the result what they were expecting, and
Mm.
a student is doing suicide this day.
Mm.
Not these days, actually previously also it used to happen, but because of the social media and all, nowadays we are able to hear this news, right? So why
Correct.
don't we include this thing in the education system itself?
Yes, I think every school, every curriculum should include mental health as a part of the student's life, because then they would probably grow up as robust individuals who know, if they are feeling those feelings in which they are thinking about self-harm, they know when to reach out. Sometimes they are themselves not aware what is happening to me. they're not aware ki, okay, I scored low marks, but I'm feeling judged, everybody's looking, I fail, I don't know what's going to happen. Even before the result comes, they will go ahead with self-harm, right?
Correct.
They'll go ahead with suicide. So if it's there, if they know what are their triggers, if they know themselves well enough, ki this is, and they also know whom to reach out in case they are having such thoughts. So that if the school inculcates that kind of culture in education and awareness in the staff, in the teachers, in the uh, students themselves, then that would definitely help.
Perfect.
So and plus, I think reframing the question also, that instead of fearing that we would put this idea into somebody's head, if when parents, for that matter, they are seeing that there is a huge behavioral change in their children, right, but they're too scared to ask. Okay, what if I ask, and then the person starts to think, right, ki, acha, this is also an option for me, right? So
Correct.
that doesn't happen, right? So we should recognize that asking actually shows a lot of care and love, that there is somebody who cares about you, there is somebody who cares enough to ask you this, right? And that kind of opens the lines of communication between people.
This was enlightening because if I think, "Ki, okay, that person is facing some issue and I want to really ask whether you are thinking about suicide, I will be not able to. I don't have that courage to ask. So that's a big step that somebody can take where one person is going to the other person and asking, like if he's thinking, "Ki, okay, that person is not okay," then asking actually, "Ki, okay, you are not fine. Is everything is okay or not? If not, then I am ready to support." So that is a very big step one can take. So we will now move to the rapid fire round where we will make this particular episode a little lightened because we are talking a lot about suicide prevention and QPR, which are very like weighted terms. So that's the reason now let's move to rapid fire round. I will
Hmm.
be telling you one question or one sentence, and out of that, whatever things comes to your mind, you can say me. Previously,
Sure.
I used to play the same game where one word I used to say and the one word answer I expect. But now I have
Okay.
just changed the format a little bit to make it
Sure.
little more interesting, right?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. So, what's the most misunderstood part of QPR?
I think the most misunderstood part of QPR is that people think they need to fix everything. They
Okay.
think they have to provide a solution, and they have to try to figure out what to do if the person says yes when they ask the question of suicide. So they don't have to do that. They have to just support the person and encourage the person to seek help.
Okay. Okay. Hypnotherapy or QPR, which do you turn to first in a crisis?
QPR definitely, if there is a crisis situation. Hypnotherapy would come later because it's a it's a modality in which you would be uh, healing yourself and taking care of your mental health. But QPR definitely, first thing you need to be able to ask the question and take the person to seek help. So hypnotherapy would come when you are referring the person to a counselor or a crisis helpline or psychiatric help or a hypnotherapist.
Okay, okay. Fine. Complete the sentence. The safest question you can ask is
Are you having thoughts of suicide?
that's not a safest question for sure, but okay, it's coming from the system.
It's a direct question, and sometimes asking somebody directly rather than dilly-dallying around a topic would make the person also think that, okay, if this person has the courage to ask me this, the person cares enough for me to ask such a question, then I should also be in feeling encouraged to actually share what my thoughts are. If you keep dilly-dallying around, ki, oh, do you think you might be, thinking of something? Then you're not asking the question, actually you are just skirting around it with the fear that that person might again say yes, then what will I do? So its
Right.
best approach is to take a direct approach.
Yeah, okay. If it is coming from you, I am accepting it. But I was like, no, this is a heavy question. It's not the easiest one for sure. Okay, so one emoji that describes how you feel after the helpline shift.
I don't know what is the emoji for feeling content and satisfied. So probably the emoji which best relates to that.
Okay. So as we are going to the end of this podcast, I would like to know that what will be your 30-second mental health elevator pitch to convince someone that mental health matters and do speak about it.
Okay, so I think anybody who's going through mental health struggle, the one thing which I would tell them, you don't have to struggle alone, and you don't have to go through all the emotional turmoil alone. We are here for you, and you will get the support which you need.
Super. Very nice.
See, I think for the courage, for anybody to feel courage to talk about their mental health, we should encourage more open conversations about mental health. You know, so we need to reduce the stigma before any crisis happens. We need to talk more and more about it, spread more awareness in our community, in our social circles, and in schools, in workplace. We need to ensure that the topic of mental health is people are as comfortable talking about it as they are about talking about the physical health.
Perspective. Thank you so much, Ms. Ujjwala, for teaching us that silence isn't safety. It's the space where pain grows. To our listeners, you are not helpless. Learn QPR, reach out, share this episode with someone who needs it. Any final thoughts from your side, Ms. Ujjwala?
Yeah, to anybody who's listening, please be assured that we are here for you, and Pukar is there for you. Our helpline is free of cost, and you can call us anytime, any day of the week at between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our number is 96638966669. So you can call on this number, and help is there for you. We have very, very well trained volunteers who are there to listen to you, and they will listen to you with a lot of empathy and non-judgmental attitude.
Perfect. Perfect. So you have shared Pukar Foundation details, but if someone wants to reach out to you, is there any possibility they can connect with you maybe on LinkedIn or Instagram anywhere?
Yes, they can always reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile, which is Connect Ujjwala, and they can always drop in a note on connectpukarfoundation@gmail.com. We have an email ID too, so they can connect on either of these two.
So, if today's conversation moved you, follow us for more raw, real talks on mental health. And remember, asking one question could rewrite someone's story. This is Mindful Musing. Stay kind, stay curious, and keep listening, especially when the world goes quiet. Thank you so much, Ms. Ujjwala, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Prachi, for giving a platform to mental health. It's the need of the day that more and more people talk about mental health so that the stigma around mental health and suicide is reduced a lot. So thanks a lot.